For those of you who don't know, Traveltek is a provider in the travel technology space. Our mission is to provide great technology to travel agents to help them provide customers with the best holiday that they can do. So my mission over the next few minutes is to avoid saying Netflixisation, because it's really going to trip me up. But I do want to talk around the model that sits behind that and the move towards a subscription service model that has really transformed many industries over the past 10 years or so, and take a look around how that affects our industry. So you cannot be a consumer these days without engaging in some kind of subscription service. It pervades most industries. Now, let's not pretend it's a new thing, right? Subscription as a model has been around for centuries, dates back to the 15th century. But over the past 10 years or so, it's really pervaded many, many industries that it's not touched before. Now, it could be television services, so it could be Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, music with Spotify and Tidal and Amazon Music, and go a long time with these kind of mainstream opportunities. But there's also much more niche providers, so socks, cheese, wine, there's all sorts of subscription box services that you can get, and the proliferation of these has been massive. And this is our lived experience of it as consumers. The data backs up the growth of this as well. So if you look over the past 10 years, now this is US data, but it applies pretty similarly to the UK as well. Over the last 10 years, the cumulative growth of subscription models, and let's call it the subscription economy, has significantly outweighed the growth of, let's call it the product economy models. So this happened, really started taking off around 10 years ago. It's continued all the way through, and it's not going away. So if you look even over the last year, the growth of the subscription economy significantly outstripped the growth of the product economy. So it's here to stay. It's certainly not reached its peak yet, and it's going to be with us for some time. So why is that? So first thing to stress is it's not just a new way of taking payment, right? It's much more than that. It's a much more fundamental change in how businesses work and operate. So in this diagram, it talks around an old model and a new model. I actually don't like that. These models actually exist in parallel. They're just different models, not old and new. But the old model is what we call the product economy model, where the corporation's engagement with the consumer is around understanding what product they want, building it, selling it to them, and then shipping it to them. And at that point, the engagement kind of stops. You don't really want to be hearing from your consumer much after you've sold them the product, because it's probably because they want to return it or they've got an issue. So the relationship is very different there. In the new model, the subscription economy model, it changes this around and puts the consumer as a subscriber at the heart of it, and it lengthens and strengthens the engagement between the consumer and the corporation. So there's still a product there. It's not that the product goes away. It still has to be a good product, but the way the consumer engages with that is ongoing and sustained, and it's two-way as well. So the consumer is continually using the product and giving feedback on it, and the supplier is continually engaging and having to demonstrate value. So it's an entirely different way of operating. And why is that good? Well, as a consumer, I don't have to say too much about that, really. I think we all know why it's better to have Netflix than it is to go out and build a huge collection of Blu-rays. As a corporation, a bit more to say on this, but in general, it's quite a good model there as well. You've got a much deeper relationship with the customer. You've got predictive, ongoing revenues. But this is about travel technology. And as operators in this space, as players in this space, we all live a kind of dual life. In our personal lives, we use this subscription model, we engage with it, we kind of have to, but we all get value from it. But if you put on your corporate hat and you live in the corporate world, it's much more limited. You probably find there are far fewer engagements you have with your corporate tech providers, which are of this kind of subscription model basis. There are some, I'm not saying they don't exist, but they're much less prevalent. And even where they do exist, they tend to often work around long-term kind of contracts and buy-ins. So even where you've got a subscription service, you're often tied in for 3 years or 5 years, which isn't really, when you think about it, that different to just buying a product up front and then using it for a long time. So we run these kind of dual lives. Our work experience is very different than our consumer experience. And why is that? It's really because I think there's just not the service provision there just now in our travel technology space. And I think there are 3 main drivers behind that. So we'll take a quick look at them. So the first one is cloud. Now, listen, I'm a technologist at heart. I have been an advocate of the cloud for near on 20 years. I was running factories from AWS when it was still in beta nearly 20 years ago. I'm a huge proponent of what it can do and what it has done, but I think it is also causing a problem that is holding back some businesses. There's a box to tick around being on the cloud, right? A lot of organizations can say we're on the cloud because they've moved some services into a cloud data center, right? And all that's really done is taken something out of a specific server in a data center and put it in a server in a different data center, most likely owned by Amazon or Google. It's not fundamentally changed the offering, it's simply changed the way it's run. Now, this is something we took on at Traveltek, actually. I joined the business about 2 years ago. We were in the middle of a cloud migration project, and that did exactly what we said. It kind of took our offering from a data center, put it into the cloud. Now, the hard project gave me a few extra grey hairs, but we got there, and what it meant was, for me as a technology provider, made my life a bit easier. I was no longer worried around a bit of tin in a data center falling over. I was no longer worried about our commercial team coming up with a brilliant new customer that I didn't have capacity for in a data center. So it solved some technology problems, gave us some financial benefit as well. Instead of having to go out and spend a 7-figure sum on new hardware, we could kind of do it as we go on the cloud. So made life easy for me technology-wise. It's a financial difference, but it didn't revolutionize our service. It didn't revolutionize our customers' business. Made us a bit more resilient, give us a bit of a faster response time. Didn't revolutionize things. It's a real difference between being on the cloud and being cloud native, which is what really drives the differential performance of these subscriber economy businesses. So the likes of Netflix and Spotify and Tidal, they're all built cloud natively, and they leverage cloud components from the ground up. They haven't built them outside the cloud and moved them in. It's been built using some of that capability. So guess what, Traveltek? So having taken on the pain of a cloud migration, we then went back and had to make the case for doing a cloud native rebuild. So we're currently going through the process of rebuilding our applications from the ground up to be cloud native. And, we're several months into that now. We're already starting to see some of the transformational benefits that can come from doing that. You get the benefits of AI, machine learning, big data processing, analytics out of the box and relatively easy and straightforward to use. So it drives a real difference, and to be able to operate effectively in the subscriber economy space, you really need to be cloud native. That's the only real way to do it. So that's a technology constraint that's there just now. There's also a financial constraint. There's no real way of getting away from the truth of if you adopt a subscriber economy model. There's two kind of realities there. First of all is that your revenues are going to dip, actually, as you move away from this kind of big bang sales method and move towards a more consistent subscriber model. Your revenues are going to dip a little bit as that happens. Then you also have the impact of the investment in your new capabilities to build out your subscription model. So that's going to raise your costs. So you have to do what's called swallow the fish. You have to accept this increase in costs, decrease in revenue, and just get through it, reach the point where it actually comes back around and actually your revenue growth can come at the back end and your costs eventually come down. This is a hard thing to swallow, and for incumbents in a marketplace who've done well out of the old product economy model, it's hard to adopt this space. That requires patience, it requires vision, and it requires supportive investors. And a lot of incumbents in the marketplace don't have all of those things that are required. So there's not only a technology barrier, there's also a financial barrier to this model. And for the final of the three barriers, we'll come back to a technology one. Now, this is the complexity of actually doing it. Now, cloud is a brilliant thing. It opens up lots of capabilities that are there, but it is insanely complicated to navigate your way through these. Now, this is actually, it's a 2-year-old kind of summary of AWS's cloud offerings, right? It's really complicated. There's lots there. There's lots of really good stuff there. There's blockchain stuff. There's augmented reality, virtual reality, security services. There's some really, really amazing stuff there that can transform businesses. But being able to leverage that, navigate your way through it, and use it to build a business is difficult and requires deep expertise. I think I'm not going to be the only person to come on this stage today not to mention the kind of challenge we've got around recruitment in the industry just now. Getting hold of technologists who can navigate this stuff is really difficult. So if you can find them, you'll be doing well to attract them to your business. And if you can attract them to your business, you're doing well to retain them. It's very hard to kind of build sustained technology expertise in this area just now. So even if you accept that building cloud natively is the way to go, it's challenging to get the resource to be able to do it. So these three things are combining to make it a bit of a challenge for players in our space just now to really operate in the kind of subscriber economy that we think will give some of the benefits. But I'll finish off by saying that I think it will happen, right? These challenges are challenges, but they will be solved. It's a matter of how and when. And the truth of most industries is if we don't disrupt ourselves as providers in this space, someone else, a new entrant, will come in and do it for us. So it's incumbent on us working in this space to find solutions to the problems and move towards this model.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart.